So I'd like to pay my respects to our elders, past, present and future, and for all the people who've taught us that the Kalkadoon country is a place where brave people have been forever. And I know that Kalkadoon country is a place where brave people continue to reside. So, Labas Ritas, Manovaras Yaras, Isabel Skinner. Beneath our radiant Southern Cross, we toil with hearts and hands to make this commonwealth of ours renowned of all the lands. For those who've come across the seas, we've boundless plains to share. With courage, let us all combine to advance Australia fair. This is the verse that speaks to the inclusion of migrants, refugees, displaced people. It also speaks to the hard-working, resourceful innovators and the nation builders of Australia. Although it's rarely sung, because of course, being Aussies, we have to abbreviate everything. So we only ever learn the first verse and that's all we sing. I am a first-generation Australian. My father arrived in Australia at the age of 21 with his brother Leo from war-torn Europe. They had fled persecution to find, for them, when the war was over, there was no going home until 1989, when the Iron Curtain came down and the Berlin Wall bring down that wall. Now Lithuania is a member state of the EU, having joined in 2003. Lithuanian Australians did not return to Lithuania. In fact, once he arrived in this beautiful wide brown land, my father never left Australia. In fact, his words were, "I'm never going back to that bloody place." The UNHCR reports that there are currently 68.5 million forcibly displaced people worldwide. Every day, 44,400 people are forced to flee their homes because of conflict and persecution. 85% of those displaced people are living in countries already struggling to provide the basic needs for their citizens. I know this conference asks us to reflect on the question, are you remotely interested? We who live in remote Australia are remotely interested in health, in poverty, in food security, in quality education, in gender equality, in clean water, sanitation, and energy affordability. These are the first 7 of our United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or our global goals. As a nation, we have signed up to address these issues and a range of measures relating to them by 2030. And many of our speakers have actually talked about how we actually address those on a day-to-day basis. We've also signed up for the full shebang of 17 goals, including decent work and economic growth. Our remote communities are plagued by problems. In my mind, one of the biggest problems is the lack of opportunity for decent work and economic growth for people who live there. However, this is changing, and this is what gives me real hope for remote Australia. We have an opportunity to impact the future of remote Australia by our collective efforts in educating people for the jobs that are available. By teaching innovation and entrepreneurship, we can support people to develop new opportunities that can support more people to have decent work and economic growth. The University Department of Rural Health Programs is one of Australia's effective responses to addressing these goals and this goal in remote Australia. We've heard from Sabina about the number of JCU graduates who have come from the region and who have trained in the region, and Margit is one of those people. We've heard from Susan Wern yesterday of the Australian government's commitment to expand the program to train more people and to support more people in health careers in remote and rural areas. We also need to acknowledge the bravery of our international medical graduates, our engineers, our accountants, who have sought a better life for themselves and their families in remote Australia, who have committed their families to live and work in remote Australia. So the UDRH program has a big role to play in training health professionals, but we also have a big role in supporting our communities. Our conference, and all of you attending, has supported a large number of local entrepreneurs. We have supported Indigenous family-owned businesses such as the Sunset Dancers, and I'm sure you all love them. Local beef producers such as the McDonald's in our delicious dinner the other night. Our caterers at Terrace Gardens, and as anyone who's been here for the whole conference has seen, they employ lots of young people from around our region. Decent work and economic growth is also important to our Aboriginal leaders. The Wave Hill Walk-Off was a Labor protest for equal wages and conditions for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Coming from a family who had to leave their lands and livelihoods with nothing but the clothes on their back. My grandfather did not survive the experience, and my grandmother was left in a displaced persons camp with 4 young children. The displaced persons camp was Dresden, where they were left during the bombing of Dresden, and Dresden was razed to the ground, and the displaced people survived. In our family, we do not have the aspiration you can be anything you want to be. We were told, how are you going to make a living? Once you've worked that out, you're then able to pursue your dreams. My family, my father's family, were professional musicians. My grandfather was a conductor, and in his day, he was very famous. He was a professor of music. His patrons were the Lithuanian Jews, and my family had a very comfortable life in Kaunas, Lithuania. My father learnt music from the age of 3, as did his brothers, and his ability to play the trombone to a very high level, even at the age of 14, enabled his family to survive the war. In fact, I have a photograph of my father playing the trombone with Louis Armstrong, and I'm very proud of that. When he arrived in Australia, he became a boot clicker. He worked on construction projects of national significance, and he had seasonal work with the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra. Eventually, my father, who was a bit of a wild man actually, settled down and married my mother, who was just 17. He wanted to have a true Australian family. If he said it, it would be a true Australian family. So he moved to Paruna in the Murray Mallee during what was to become a 7-year drought and a rabbit plague. Being resourceful though, he bought a cool truck, and part of his business was to shoot rabbits for their fur and then export them to Adelaide to make the iconic Akubra hat, and all of us in my family still wear it with pride. My parents sent from their little Riverland town 1,000 pairs of rabbits to town a week. Some of our previous speakers have recounted where they were born as their parents followed work around Australia. I know we're trying to encourage people to take up health careers, but let me put it to you. If we are truly people-centred, we will be encouraging kids to look at what opportunities are available in their local communities and how they may train to make a living. How do we link students to educational opportunities to help them realise a decent job and provide economic growth for this wide brown land? I have spent more than 35 years as a nurse. This has provided me and my family with decent work in remote Australia for more than 30 of those years. The University Department of Rural Health program has also supported me to continue to learn, and the support actually allowed me to get my PhD. But it has been my plumbing business, my art gallery, my accommodation business, my consulting business that has provided others in remote Australia with decent work and economic growth. Remote Australia needs us all to be and support entrepreneurship. My research has been on telehealth service development, and I'm acutely aware of the importance of good broadband. Out of this project of national significance, our entrepreneurs will be enabled to do what they do to build economic growth. And I urge all of us to really push that we have the NBN available and fast broadband available for everywhere in remote Australia. The Sustainable Development Goals are so much more than the Millennium Development Goals, and they allow us all to really focus on building opportunities to support remote Australia. So, I know that we've had quite a long start to the morning with Paul being late, and I'm not going to go on forever. So are you remotely interested in growing opportunities for all Australians, our first Australians and those who came across the seas? With courage, let us all combine to advance Australia fair. Thank you.